Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on episode 15 of the Hopenning. And I'm happy to welcome you here tonight. We are the Hopenning, Fran and Marina. And the Hopenning is the place where hope is happening if you open yourself up to receive that. So Fran is a 33-year-old veteran teacher, elementary school age children in Northern Alberta, Canada. And she's a part-time rapid transformational therapist or practitioner. And that's how Fran and I met. And I am Marina, and I am a full-time rapid transformational therapy practitioner. And I am living part-time in Alberta and part-time in British Columbia. Right now, I'm sitting in my house in British Columbia. So you'll always see the backdrop change. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm very excited to have Fran present tonight on the topic of luck. So we've been talking about money and money blocks this month. So Fran, I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about the topic of luck. So tell me your own experience.
Well, Marina, I was born lucky. I was born the day after New Year's Day. So in my small town, which wasn't as small as it is now, but in those days, the businesses would all get together and give a bunch of presents to the parents of the New Year's baby. So because I was the New Year's baby that year, my parents got a lot of presents. So they got a lube and oil change at the garage station, and they got a free supper out at the Chinese restaurant. And I got this big teddy bear, and there was just lots and lots of presents. So I was born lucky. And that became my catchphrase throughout my life. When I no longer had luck, I would say, I used up all my luck when I was born. But since then, I have realized that I'm a lot luckier than I think or thought I was, just because of life events. And really, it comes down to your attitude. And so, Marina, do you consider yourself lucky?
I cannot say that I do. I cannot say that I ever thought myself to be lucky. Blessed, yes. And I guess my question to you is, what's the difference?
All right. So the difference is with luck, it's all about people who believe that others are born lucky or they're just naturally lucky. They believe that they just get more chances in life. They get more, things just come to them. I'm not sure if you know people that seem to win things all the time. Well,
it's interesting you say that, because I had a very dear friend who passed away last year, and she would walk into a casino and to go sing. She was a singer. That's how I knew her. And she would walk past the slot machines, and just walking past it, put a coin in, and all the bells and whistles will go off. There was not a time I haven't seen her win something.
Exactly. And then there are others who sit there all day long and leave. Someone sits down and it rings, right?
Right.
So how does this happen? Well, there are actually people that study this stuff. So I'll begin with a little story of a researcher at Harvard, and his name is Dr. Sean Achor. And he's been a professor there at the positive psychology department of Harvard for 12 years. He's written a number of books on happiness. And part of the book, the last book that I read by him, talks about how people think that success will come first, and then happiness springs from success. Correct? So if I win $1 million, then I'll be happy. If I lose 100 pounds, I'll be happy. If I get that knock dead gorgeous girlfriend, I'll be happy. And the list continues and continues. And yet research shows that it really isn't true. The goalpost just keeps on moving, right? And so he did the research on it, and he found that you have to be happy first before you can be successful. And so, springing off of that, there's actually another professor, and his name is Richard Wiseman. Great name, hey? Dr. Richard Wiseman, and he's out of Britain. And he is classified as one of the 100 most influential people in Britain. And the reason being, he studies luck and how people can create their own luck. And he's found through his studies, through his research, through all the documentation that he's looked at and that he's done himself, that it all really does start with happiness first. We do create our own luck depending on our own attitudes. And so he's out of a university in Herefordshire in Britain. And so he's actually got a school that he has created called the School of Luck, so that people can actually go there to improve their luck, to improve their attitudes so that their luck can become better. And so what Richard Wiseman has found out throughout all his research, that there's a few different things that we can do to optimize our luck. Okay. And so the first thing you do is you maximize your opportunities. You keep your eyes open, you keep your ears open, you keep your mind open, and you take the risk. So he found that the luckiest people are naturally more outgoing. Does that make sense to you?
A few things you said, I made some notes here. A few things you said kind of resonated with me. The first one was the have, be, do kind of attitude. Like you have to have something first to do something and to be something. Like, for example, you have to have money first to do something to make you successful, and then you will be happy. But I've learned that it's the reverse. You have to be first, and then do, and then you will have. So that really resonated with me. And then another thing, you said that Richard Wiseman is teaching how to change the attitudes. So that's very interesting. So tell me more.
Very interesting. It's very interesting. He found that people who consider themselves unlucky are inattentive. They don't pay attention because they're so focused either on keeping what they have or focusing on what they don't have. They don't pay attention to the possibilities out there. And of course, there's the fear of taking a risk. And they look at life as though it's the container that's half empty rather than half full. So they have this demeanor of lack in their life, people who are unlucky. If you focus on the empty rather than half full, that tends to create for you more of that. We've talked about that before. Focusing on whatever you are focusing on grows.
Absolutely.
So if you focus on emptiness, the emptiness grows. If you focus on fulfillment, that also grows. And so we also look at your intuition. He says intuition is extremely important. We need to listen to our hunch. Okay, and the hunch is your gut feeling. And some people will say, well, I'm always wrong anyway. Should I just choose the other one? So if I play these numbers and they're never right, should I just throw away those numbers? And the answer to that question is, what does your gut tell you to do? Listen to your gut. Well, how do we become more responsive to what our gut is telling us if we've had a lifetime of making bad decisions? Well, we've also talked about this before. Quieting yourself, being in the stillness, the quiet, the stillness, the meditation, Just just zone out. Just be rather than do. And you will start to feel your hunches coming back. The hunch, the gut feeling, I can feel it in my gut. People say that all the time. I just felt it in my gut. I just didn't have a good feeling about it. Well, trust your feelings, because oftentimes your feelings are trying to tell you something, and it's about the subconscious mind, right? Even though we may not be paying attention, the subconscious mind is. We talk about that all the time. So clear your mind of your doubts, your insecurities, your worries about taking a risk. Clear the mind and jump at opportunities. Just jump at it. It's either going to go one way or the other, right? It's either way, it's going to be an adventure. The third thing he talks about is to expect good luck. So okay, so I'm going to go buy some numbers at the lot for the lottery and expect to win. Maybe not necessarily that, because you also have to do the footwork, right? The footwork also goes along with it. So one of my prime examples for doing footwork is Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett, at one point, not that many years ago, was the richest man in the world. And of course, he didn't start out that way. He started out just a poor man, right? He was just an ordinary kid from an ordinary family. He was not a billionaire by any means, but he paid attention. So we talk about that again. He paid attention to what rich people were doing, and he'd ask them. He'd ask, what did you do to become so successful? What did you do? And one of the things that he heard over and over were people that were telling him to read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And
That's Carnegie, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
written in the 1930s, and it's still an influential book.
Yeah.
I've got it on my bookshelf. It was recommended to me. And so in that book are real words of wisdom. Have you read that book?
I have, and it brought to mind also the Napoleon Hill book, which was written in exactly the same time, Think and Grow Rich. And he did
Yes.
the same. He went and
Yeah.
he interviewed successful people.
Yes. And one of the things that is mentioned in that book is to talk to people. Talk. So, I mean, we could be, I'd like to tell you a story about my dad. And so my dad was a child of immigrants. He came to Canada at the age of 4 years old. Nobody in his family could speak English. I mean, they worked hard. And yet, if you took my dad as an adult and dropped him out of a plane in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and he landed among the bush people, he would be making friends and sitting around drinking coffee or a beer before nightfall. That was my dad. He could stoke up a conversation no matter where he was in the world. And sometimes as a teenager, I found that quite embarrassing. And yet as an adult, I came to really respect that, because he was not afraid to put himself out there. He was a farm boy who grew up to become a farmer. He had grade 6 education. And yet he was never afraid to talk to people. And that's one of the things that we can do to create our luck, because as we talk to people, we create opportunities for ourselves. That's what networking is all about.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I know I have friends that would never strike up a conversation with someone they don't know in a faraway place. No way. And there's a ton of reasons for it. Just being shy or not knowing what to say. Or I've also had that a friend has told me, Fran, how do you know that they don't want their privacy? And so, how do you know?
Mm.
You trust your gut.
Right.
You trust your gut and you watch, you look at social cues, right? You know when people want their privacy and when they would be open to a conversation. And that's the way you start building opportunities for yourself, which leads to luck. Okay? Because we already said there really is no such a thing as luck. It's all about risk taking, being positive, putting yourself out there, creating opportunities for yourself. And then number 4, turning bad luck into good. And we've talked about that one before too. If we get cut off on the we're driving, we get cut off. Oh, we forgot something. We need to go home and grab it before we can jump in our car and drive away. Some people might look at that and go, oh, I've had the worst day possible. This happened and this happened and this happened. And yet you can look at it as bad luck. However, you can look at it as a blessing, an unknown blessing. So Marina, if you went to work, you had to walk downtown at lunchtime to grab something from a store, and you realize when you get outside, oh my goodness, it's raining. What would you do? You had no umbrella.
You're asking the wrong person, because I would say, yay, I'm getting wet. I'm going to sing in the rain.
Yeah. And others would say, oh my goodness, my
That's
hair.
right. That's
my
right.
hair. And so we can look at that as, this is the worst luck ever. I have to sing. My hair is going to be a mess. I'm going to look terrible in the pictures. Or you could go and find somebody with an umbrella and say, may I please share this umbrella with you? All I need to do is walk 2 blocks. And chances are they would say,
absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, you're so right, because I know people, if anything goes wrong in the day, it will throw them. They have a premeditated expectation of what the day is supposed to look like. And if something happens to derail those plans, they cannot deal with it. And so rain is a great example.
Mm-hmm. It's all about being flexible, right? It's about being flexible. I have a story about, so I'm driving my bike, and I am a long ways away from home. I'm 50 kilometers away from home. And it's a road bike. So the tires are really, it's a thin wall tire. And I get a flat tire in the middle of nowhere. Seriously, it's in the middle of nowhere. And so I'm like, okay, there's not even cell service out here. What do I do? Do I carry my bike back to town? What do I do? So I went to the nearest house, knock on the door, find out who's there. And nobody's home. But there was cell service at that house. So then I can phone. I phoned a friend that I knew that lives somewhere out there. And they said, well, I'm sorry, Fran, I'm 50 kilometers away in your town right now. But they said, I will phone so-and-so and I will get them to meet you, and they will pump up your tire and they will make sure that you're good to go on the highway. And so my philosophy is, it never hurts to try. Never hurts to try.
Is there a positive thing that came out of that?
Oh, yes, it was wonderful, because not only did the man who lived somewhere start getting his tire pump and all that, a patch ready for me and all that, the person who lived in the house ended up, how did that work? The person who lived in the house was not very far down the road, and they came home as well. And it was a lady. She didn't have a tire pump or anything, but she phoned somebody. And so there was all these people. It was like a network of people that all came and rescued me. And
That's
so
wonderful.
It's wonderful. And it's not just small town stuff. Some people will say, well, Fran, you live in a small town. Well, you know what? Deep down, I believe people are good. People love helping because helping makes you feel good inside. Those people that helped me that day, they felt good inside. Not only did me, I felt good, but they get that feeling of happiness too for helping. And so you turn bad luck into good. If you just change your mindset, change your attitude, look at it as an opportunity of some kind, somehow, somewhere. Warren Buffett, that billionaire, he has made it his life's purpose to give away 99% of his total wealth before he dies. He's already given away billions and billions of dollars. There's something to that. The more you give, the more you receive. It's all about an equal and opposite reaction, right? It's the law of physics. And so the last thing I'm going to talk about is serendipity. Okay. Things that happen coincidentally that really aren't a coincidence. So things that happen that really line themselves up like a domino effect, right? It's like, oh, I just had something happen, and then this happened, which made me even more sure that this was a good thing. And so what really lucky people do is they don't follow the same routines all the time. They switch it up. Okay, so if you travel on the same road every day to your same job all the time, there's no opportunity for something to change. It's always going to be the same. But if you say, okay, well, today I'm going this other way to see maybe there'll be something new. There's somebody new. There's something different. So you open up your mind, you open up your landscape, you see different things. That's one way to do it. You can eat in a different restaurant. If you eat in a different restaurant, you get more opportunities to see, to think, to talk to the owners. Give you another example. And you see, when I go to see my daughters, I have a restaurant that I like to go to. The food is good, but the chef is wonderful. So every time I eat there, he comes and sees me. He comes to talk to me. And the last time that I went to see my daughters and took them to this restaurant, he had forgotten to put something on what I had ordered. So I asked the waitress to take it back to the chef. And he came out, he was very apologetic. And, I got things that were missing. And then he came out with a plate of desserts for free.
Nice.
Just to show that, he just appreciated me so much, and that it just shows you build relationships, you build connections, you look for opportunities, you turn the bad into good, which is exactly what he did, right? He turned a bad thing, or maybe some would consider that, into an opportunity to make me even happier.
So, Fran, if I am your client and I come to you and I tell you, I am the unluckiest person on this planet, can you help me? What would you do?
I would say, darling, of course I can help you. I would say, absolutely.
So tell me how would RTT work?
RTT works because it changes your mindset. It changes your attitude. It gets down to your underlying belief of where you created this idea that you were unlucky. So it could have been in your childhood, early adulthood, or maybe it was just a bunch of circumstances, right? A bunch of circumstances that happened, and you were too young to understand, right? That, yeah, it's not really me. It's just what happened. It's a bunch of circumstances. So then you and I, as RTT practitioners, we look at those things that happened to that person, and we give them a different set of eyes to see it differently. Okay, so now they're no longer looking at it through a child's eyes. They're looking at the same scenario through an adult's eyes and seeing it really for what it was, that it had nothing to do with them personally. It had to do with the circumstances or maybe their interpretation of what was going on. And then we would change that belief. We would change that belief into a belief of positivity, of a growth mindset, of a mindset that's looking for opportunities, willing to take risks, willing to open up their mind, their hearts to an expansive point of, expansive point of view, and that the world wants to give them, the universe wants to give them good, but to be open to looking and seeing it where it is, to looking at that umbrella situation in a different way, or the flat tire situation, or the stuff that's missing on the food plate, looking at it differently.
So from what I'm listening to you, it seems like the secret to becoming a person in luck is to change your attitude and be focused on it, to pay attention to that and to keep in that. So how?
Oh, baby steps.
So
Baby
any
steps.
advice you would share for keeping you in that positive attitude at all times? How would you help people?
Being conscious. Okay, so we talked back at the beginning about people who consider themselves lucky tend to be inattentive. They don't attend. They're not paying attention. They're so focused on what they have or what they don't have that they're not open and aware to whatever else is going on around them. And so just start to stop having an opinion right away. So often we will have an opinion, we'll form a judgment before we allow enough information in. So try to postpone judgment. Try to prioritize non-judgment. So if we can prioritize thinking about the good rather than being so careful, being adverse of risk, being so worried that the worst is going to happen, because what are we doing? We're focusing on the worst. We're focusing on the worry. We're focusing on the anxiety. We're focusing on the tension. We're focusing rather than thinking in a growth mindset.
Okay.
So try to become so conscious of our thoughts. And if we do think something and we realize it, oh, what kind of a thought was that, Fran? Is that a positive thought? Not really.
Catching
How
those
can
thoughts. Yeah, I
catch
think
your
we
thoughts?
started the New Year's with that, right?
Catch your thoughts. Change it. Change it up. And listen to your gut. Okay? Because sometimes it's our minds that tell us, nope, worry, worry, worry. Listen to your gut.
I don't know if if you've heard of this. I think it was a lady in Ontario, Canada, about 15 years ago. She has won the lottery for the third time. And when she was interviewed, they asked her how, and she would say, "I just get this feeling." Like, I want that feeling too, Fran. So how can I get that feeling?
Marina, a very good friend of mine told me that it's all, luck is not the most important thing.
No,
What's
I've won the
most
man lottery, you know that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What's most important is the goodness,
absolutely.
the kindness, the compassion, respect for yourself, respect for others, love.
Oh,
That's what's
yeah,
most
my
important.
favorite.
Because remember what we said, you can't build happiness on success. You have to build success after you've already got happiness. It just doesn't work any other way.
Well, you know me well, and you know that we postponed this recording for a little mishap I had, and it was another lesson in love for me, and so that's why I'm wearing glasses. So you can probably see the remnants of this. I had an allergic reaction a few days ago to something, and I'm still pretty swollen. And I looked in the mirror, and it was such a shock. I did not recognize myself at all. There was nothing about me that was familiar. And when I went, meditated, and asked for help and guidance, one of the things we do in RTT is the role, function, purpose, intention. And then when I said, okay, what is the role for this reaction I had in my life? I had it so clear, I've written it down, is to find the love within me for myself. And it took me back to, it's so easy to stand on this side and tell people, love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. And what do you love about yourself? And, we get to our middle ages and we always try to improve something and change something. And I had to go back and think, if I lose this forever, who am I? Do I still love me? Am I okay with who I am? And it was probably one of the most liberating exercises that I've had in a long time, to make that list of what it is about myself I like when I take this face away.
Mm.
And then the second thing was, don't take what you have for granted. In my own life, a lot of times I want more. I want better. And I don't really understand how good I have it until I don't. So that is my 2 cents about love tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, to really appreciate what we have, because boy, we miss it, it's gone.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So
But anyway,
to,
that was so much fun researching this.
that's amazing, fantastic, Fran. Wonderful things to cling to. So in closing, why don't you tell us some success stories of how people turn their unluckiness into luckiness?
So I think one of the most profound ones that I have is a lady that contacted me, and she was able to come right to my house, and just feeling so anxious and just really a sense of lack of purpose in her life, and just, the same stuff that we deal with all the time, the real unworthy lack of love. And that unworthy, that term, unworth. So worth, usually when we put something to the word worth, what's your net worth?
It's a value.
Right? It's a value, it's a dollar sign, it's all of that. And so after the session with me, and the session with me was to treat that, the anxiety, the sense of self-worth, the sense of lack of direction in life. She immediately felt a real renewed sense of hope in life, like not just hope, but just joy, an intense joy, which really created a ripple effect for her. It created such a ripple effect within her, not only just her family, but her co-workers and extended family and her friends. It was wonderful. The stories that she told me afterwards, it brings tears to your eyes, about the work that we do is profound. And you and I, we may hear about the people themselves, but we never hear about the ripple effect. And one of the things that Sean Acor, the first researcher that I told you about, the Harvard research in positive psychology, talks about in his book is the the ripple effect of happiness. So if a person does a kind deed for someone else, so the people that helped me with my bike that day, their happiness that they created from helping me, I got the happiness, they also got the happiness, but it ripples out to the fourth degree. That means it affected them, it affected their family, it affected who their family affected, and who those people affected. The fourth degree away. Just those kind acts, not only the they did for me, but also the kind act when they got the benefit of the kindness. So it's, can you imagine what the world would be like?
Yeah, exactly. Like especially now, like it's
Especially now, just to
yeah,
focus on gratitude, focus on
absolutely.
kindness, focus
Yeah.
on love and respect and compassion. Mm.
No, that's for sure. Well, thank you, Fran. That was absolutely wonderful. And so next week we will continue on the topic of money blocks, finances, luck. Call it what you want. And we will have a guest speaker over the next 2 weeks. We will have two lovely ladies that will join us, and we will announce that ahead of time. So let's go and create some luck this week.
I can't wait.
Okay. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Marina.